Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a chess show on Pop TV. My name is Sasha Star, and today we have our guest, two Professor Ken Regan. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Excellent. And we have also Professor next in line, Dan. Um, Fleetwood. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hi, Sasha. Hi, Ken. Pleased to
Great.
be joining you today from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Oh, wow.
The
How
land
is
of the
Wow.
champion.
How is there in Santa Fe? I never been there. Can you have you been there?
I know, although Debbie was going to go there until
Oh,
plans
okay.
changed with her mother.
We lived in New Mexico for 15 years, so it's always nice to come back.
Mhm.
Hmm, I see. Great. Well, what's happening lately in chess world? This American Cup just started, and we have this tournament in Prague is almost finished. Um, and
It did finish.
yeah, yeah, actually it did. So what's happened there is the most interesting. I think Abdusatorov performed really well there.
Right. So Abdus Satorov won, I have to say, in a very quiet manner. And I'm going to show the decisive moments from his three wins. But he won,
Okay.
with three wins and three draws, a half point. He did not blow anyone out of the water. He
Mhm.
was very patient through the tournament. But it is significant because this is his third major tournament victory in a row. And people are wondering, gosh, why is he not in the candidates?
Yeah.
So, um,
Timing is everything.
You can
yeah.
declare him as the world champion in tournaments with a classical control because nobody can challenge him for that.
Yeah, well, the world champion in everything generally is coming back to classical tournaments with standard control. Magnus Carlsen is playing in the TP Sigmund tournament in May, so
Mhm.
everyone's been happy about that.
Nice.
Um, so, can you see the screen of this
Yes.
position? Okay, so this is his first round game against Norbek Abdusattorov, and um, sorry, against Aravind Chitambaram. And White has
Mhm.
been nursing an advantage, uh, better knight against bishop, better dark squared bishop for a while, unbalanced pawns, and has just offered the trade of queens, or ignored Black's wanting to trade queens, but positioning the rook behind Black's passed pawn. So it's now turn 40. So with 38 seconds left, actually running the clock down to 8 seconds, Chitambaram traded queens. Now it's turn 41. And so it turns out that the 97 is the one good plan for Black to hold the balance, but I think it's really hard to see. So again, this is another position where White is maneuvered so that the move that holds the balance is humanly hard to see. Instead, I don't know what Chitambaram was dreaming about here. I guess he's worried why he's going to play c5 and cut off the defense of his pawn. But bringing the knight to e7 and c6 or d5 was the way to possibly hold that. Actually, no, knight e7 gives up the pawn right away. That's why it's hard to see. But it enables Black to trade off White's superior bishop and maybe establish some kind of blockade. So that's the logic of it. But human player does not want to cede the b pawn. So Black overprotects the b pawn, maybe thinking, okay, now I can maybe get knight e7 in or something like that, especially in response to White's playing h5, because otherwise the knight would have to go to oblivion on h8. But now White simply plays rook b8, and this can now be judged to be winning because Black is very much tied down. And in fact, Black gave up the pawn, trying to trade pawns, c4. White just goes about business with h5, and now bishop d6, and Black is pinned. And cannot really avoid the loss of material for long. White's rook is positioned behind black's pawn, so it's not going anywhere, whereas white's c1 has definite plans. And so white just chomps it off. And now it's pretty easy to see that this is a winning position for white. But Abdusattorov plays very accurately. So you can give away half your advantage by trading on f8 or by just leaving the bishop on d6. But Abdusattorov presses his advantage by knocking out black's knight while it can't take it. And then now white's pawn is advanced more. And this is, again, very accurate play. Now we're going to play rook e7 at some point, maybe. And white just plays, and he has rook e7, and this is now winning more material. And at this point, with the writing firmly on the wall, Chithambaram gave up. So, so one winning moment. Then the key winning moment against the world champion. So at this point, the four games that finished had already been decisive. And I thought actually in this position that white had some winning chances. Pressure, a6 is a bit loose. But after like 5 or 6 more moves, I thought that Gukesh had stabilized this. So, transitioning from home to campus, I just thought, okay, 4 wins and a draw. So this is nice. Threatening checkmate on g2, where he has to defend it. And I think it's about here that I thought that there was some kind of stasis that white would not be able to shake. Well, the computer certainly agrees with me because it's giving 0.000 evaluations. Black is still a pawn down, but what is white going to do? Well, white found a way to just sort of wait black out. Okay, now black's actually defending h7. This may have been the moment when I thought, okay, this is in lockdown mode. But Abdusattorov just makes moves, isn't afraid of these checks, because now the checks are going to end. So black goes back into the crouch. And okay, so this it's a good move, and actually we're starting to get into the range of one mistake, because that's the queen g6 is the only move to keep the balance according to the engine. But there's the next position is another exactly juncture of this kind, and once again, the only saving move according to the computer is one that jettisons a pawn. Okay, so black can play queen d6, and actually there isn't such a good way to avoid the trade of queens. White can play queen f5 check, but it actually after in this position here, there isn't much better for white to do than bring the queen back to e5, so or allow black to trade. So move like queen f6 just allows queen d8 exchanging queens. So white's queen actually, queen at8 check, the same thing, queen g5 check, the same thing, queen h5 just looks bad. There aren't squares for the queen. Can bring it back to d3, but then black is going to get some useful checks in. So anyway, but black did not do that. So it's the only move to hold, but black thought, well, I've got my fortress, I can keep it and play to e7. But now comes a really brilliant theme for white. Okay, taking advantage of the fact that it's checkmate on c7, g6, and there's no way black can stop what is coming. G7, g5, and then g6, making a pass pawn. And right here, Gukesh resigned on the spot.
Wow.
So sudden collapse and 5 decisive games in one round at the Masters level.
Yeah, Gukesh seemed to have 3 or 4 of those moments in the tournament.
Yeah. Yes, they're asking when was the last time the reigning world champion finished clear last in the tournament.
Actually, a case could be made that Gukesh is probably the most unsuccessful champion following him winning the title. Because if you look at all world champions, starting from Steinitz to Gukesh, actually. So there were champions who were not doing quite well in tournaments. For example, even Petrosyan, after winning the title, he was not very successful in the tournaments, but he was never last. So he would be second, third, because he was making too many draws, and people like Korchnoi could overtake him because Korchnoi was an uncompromising fighter, but nothing close to what Gukesh is doing. And well, I don't know how to comment on it. That Gukesh was not worthy of winning the title, but he did it in.
He's only 19. He has another growth spurt to come, so it's maybe
true. Maybe that's the case because there was not such a young champion as a 19.
My screening scores. I've been screening this tournament. In fact, I had to send the final report right after we get off. Indicate he's playing around 2600 level.
Yeah, I read a comment, and I apologize for not remembering who said it, but someone made the comment that Gukesh primarily relies on calculation as opposed to intuition. And of course, at 19, you don't have like the years of experience that naturally accrue. And the comment was that when you rely primarily on calculation, when you're out of form, it's really hard to when you're out of form, it really shows up. So
it's possible that some of my results corroborate that.
I mean, 2600. That's extraordinary for. I mean, Gukesh was certainly playing at a much higher level last year.
In the candidates, it was brilliant.
Yeah, for sure.
So, so here, this is arguably the decisive moment for Abdusattorov. His last win in round 8 came at the expense of David Navarro, whose brilliancy I'm going to show after this.
This was a really mysterious ending. I mean, for me, this was a how done it because I knew what the result was, and I kept looking at the position. And it's like, how did that happen?
Yes, well, die Antwort einfach war Weiß wurde eingeschlafen. White fell asleep. Key point in the game.
Good point.
So, but obviously, you have to play enterprisingly with Black to set up the kind of threat that your opponent could underestimate. So, I mean, the engine says, tiny advantage for Black really equals. In other words, Black is kind of calling the shots here. I don't know. I like White's queenside pawns if they ever could get moving, but Black's bishop on a5 is making sure that doesn't happen, and Black has the little preponderance in the center. And probably the most important feature in this position is that Black's piece placement effectively prevents White's king from getting active, whereas Black can dream about going king to e7, d6, c5, and d4. So anyway, White begins trying to get better activity, but White can also be tied down. The a pawn is weak. So so this is interesting. The effective activity here. So if Black captures White's pawn, okay, then White will just calmly play rook b7 and ignore what Black's doing and bring the bishop over to e8. Okay, so it's a hard thing to defend against. I mean, Black can get a position like this, and now if White goes bishop e8, Black either has to station the rook on an awkward square or allow trade into a dead drawn bishop's opposite colors ending. So anyway, so it's good judgment by Navarro there, unfortunately costing most of the lump sum at turn. He's now down to 5.5 minutes, costing most of the lump sum. So Black anyway did not capture the pawn. Black played king f5, and now White comes behind. Black just decides to repeat the position and realizes, well, I can't bring my king around the way I want to, so I'm just going to exchange pawn, make my f pawn mobile, and now really threaten the a pawn for real. So White decided to defend it, and now Black takes a little more of the center, and so this is a very portentous decision by White.
Right.
I would have actually played rook c2 in a heartbeat. Again,
Mhm.
technically sacrificing a pawn, but easily drawn bishop opposite colors ending. So I guess what white didn't like was, well, this move is a little bit bad. Gives black a certain positional advantage with rook f2 mate, and you don't want to put the king off to the side. So it is a little dilemma. But white sowed the seeds of defeat by playing the bishop in front, and probably not sensing the danger in this position. And then Navarra thought, okay, when under pressure, trade pawns. So play g4 and just overlooked the
Ouch.
import of this move.
Yes.
So the import of this move is, whoops, lion closes its head on your mouth on your head, and white is losing his bishop. So white doesn't even get 2 pawns for it. White is hoping forlornly to trade off all the pawns. Okay, and gets this far. But very neat, very nifty point here, okay, is that is that this actually is also a winning rook to pawn head. So
That's very pretty.
yeah, it's a very pretty finale. White could not get the king over. And not only that, white's rook never got in place to give checks on b1 and a1, which is the only way to hold this kind of position. Although wait, with the pawn already on b5, it's that even that doesn't work. So never mind. Okay, now I promised to do Navarra's brilliancy, so I have not had time in a busy week to really get to the bottom of this game, but it's just amazing stuff from the same 5th round of the tournament. Navarra as white. Okay, so we're going to have Catalan pressure, and the Catalan pressure is going to matter at some junctures in this game, but not all of them. So I may, Dan, you may know what. Are you familiar?
Yeah, I've played this many times, both sides.
Okay.
Not always with a5 though. So
yeah, and it
there's
does.
nothing wrong with it. It's just there are a lot of variations here.
Yeah, it does involve white giving up a bishop for a knight right away, but as I said, the main feature in the position is the pressure of white's bishop on g2. Black, well, okay, makes a solid fortress, and now you see the a5 is retarding the b4 b5 attack by white. So I mean, white has plus 0.25, and it technically doubles after b6, but b6 can't be accounted a bad move. The engine wants black to play rook b8 and at least think about b5, or maybe just have that in reserve, or actually maybe simply overprotect the pawn in case the center liquefies. Overprotect the b pawn. Okay, so now things start getting fun. Black decides to temporarily win a pawn. White goes after some weak squares. Okay, so white recovered the pawn and now has a nice center. So what is black going to do to counteract this? And Yakuboyev played a slow plan, just positioning pieces, and white decides to now this is making some air on the king side for white's pieces. In particular, the queen lift, queen e4 to g4 is something to take into account. And white instead uses the e4 square with the knight. And now the one misstep that black makes, although not ultimately the losing move, I think. Say now white is threatening the queen lift and to g4 in a different way, and is perfectly happy giving away the pawn on a2. And now this may be the losing moment. Yakuboyev decides to take it. Okay, rather than give the king some air on the king side. So knight takes a2. All right, show me what you got. And okay, so now, so it turns out there's one best order of moves to play for white. So queen h5, any other move, queen g4, allows black's knight to return to the game and cover f6. So white comes in right away. Okay, now black can't afford to take with the g pawn, because then queen g4 check and queen f4, and the fact of the bishop coming into e4 sets up attacks that black can't defend. Okay, so the question is, how much of a bone in the throat is white's pawn on f6? Okay, we don't want to take it and ruin the king side, so black brings the queen back to defense. And so it's a little ragged, but it doesn't look bad. Black's still a pawn ahead, and black will bring a piece to d5. It looks pretty solid, but white still has lines on the king side. And black decides, well, I'm going to have to bring my queen to g5 or something like that. So let's defend my extra pawn on a5. And just we'll jettison the one on e6, but now we've driven white back a little bit. Okay, so at this point, it doesn't look as bad for black as the engine says it is, to my mind. To my mind, especially if black played rook a7 here, black's position has some basic cohesion to it. But black played bishop d7, understandable move, guarding c6, but maybe making d5 more powerful for white. And now, yes. So this is maybe what Yakuboev overlooked. And he wasn't down to time pressure yet, really. But so queen takes b5, so black takes, white forks the king and queen. Okay, well, black can counterattack, though. So there's a lot of cut and thrust, and this is really the amazing move.
Holy cow!
Yes, and if white doesn't play it, so for instance, if white just robotically plays rook c1, then knight takes e3 is just winning for black. So actually, black probably saw knight take queen takes b5, and thought that knight c2 was an effective counter. So the amazing move is this one.
Oh my God!
Yeah, okay. That's very, very clever.
Yeah. So now, I mean, we have to count how many pieces are on prise when this happens. So we have to take a look, and the reality is actually that if black captures white's rook, black is temporarily the exchange up, but white is going to recover the exchange by pushing the c pawn at least. And black's position will be in bad disarray. I mean, we can see how.
I only get into positions like this in blitz, and then only by accident.
Yeah. So knight b3. So the problem isn't so much that white is recovering the exchange; it's that black is not going to get white's c pawn for it.
Right.
Okay. So this is just lost.
That was very pretty.
Yeah. Well, okay. So maybe, not again, I wouldn't call this super time pressure. So it turns out that here white should press his luck and play d6. But this is, incredible. It's very difficult to calculate that everything is still working here tempo-wise, because white's going to have, the rook is still on prise. But it does. And the point is that white captures the queen, and now black's rook is on prise as well. And actually black will come out a piece down from this fracas. So instead of our quite understandably queen c7, which doesn't give away all the advantage, but gives away some of it, and so has to again come up with very accurate moves. But white has now reestablished a clearly winning position without black making a clear error. So it's probably the queen c7 should not really be counted as a mistake, despite what the engine says. And here now a very nice little touch move by white. h3, tickling black's queen. Where is it going to go? It goes to the far wing, still keeping hold on d7. But now another little touch move, touching the queen. Where are you going now? And here black realizes I have to jettison this piece, because if you play to b5 and white captures, I'm going to be skewered next time.
And rook e7.
Rook e7. There's no way to hold on to my position.
Yeah.
So black decided I'll capture a pawn for it, and now the rest is maybe an unnecessary flourish. The best move is actually queen c8 according to the computer, just holding on to this winning position with the advanced deep one. But this is nice.
Why not?
And now, okay, black cannot both stop the queen, but look, there's still lots of pieces hanging here. So black took one of these pieces, and now rook e7 check.
Oh,
Again, not a unique move. White can just queen, but this is pretty. Okay, and Noterbeck very graciously decided to play into mate here. Okay, so oh yeah, so it's queen e4 and only move. No, I can just calmly take black's knight too. Black's king is in the crosshairs, but this is going to be mate. And then a nice little touch finger move with the king, and then finally queen e7 mate.
brutal.
Yeah,
Wow.
brutal, but beautiful in its own way.
Yes, exactly. So brutal can be also beautiful. That's what's interesting about this game.
Yeah. So I want to mention one more story, and this was the quest by the Argentinian prodigy Faustino Oro to earn the Grandmaster title at an earlier age than America's own Abhimanyu Mishra. And he started well with 2 wins from 3 games. Then he got becalmed. I mean, his draw against Satwani was also a really good result. So he had 3 out of 4. But then he drew against someone, a peer in his class, where as to see the final position, he just couldn't generate any play with his B pawn. So, so then he lost a game where he had real chances, and so that seemingly put an end to his quest. He needed to win his last 3 games to make the GM norm and title. And he put on a real show and won 2 of those games on Wednesday. But as you see, lost in the last round against the 2,600 rated Grebnev. So I want to show just the enterprising way he played. And so he's black in this game. And, black side of the classic Carlsbad pawn structure from the Queen's Gambit, hard to drum up play when white has a majority of pawns on the king side. But Faustino Oro goes about it. At least he stopped white's minority attack on the queen side. So rook c8, just nice solid move, preventing white from having any dreams of getting 3 pawns for a piece on c6. That does, however, though, leave the a pawn hanging. And for a while, Oro decides to guard it and now allow white to come through with b4. This isn't as weakening as the classic minority attack, though, unless white is able to get in a5, a6. So anyway, black's knight on d6 holds everything. So we play, and now Oro can go back to dreaming of play on the king side. And what follows here is very nice. Okay, so what is black thinking here? You thinking of taking on e3? You thinking of pushing pawns? Certainly thinking of playing rook g6. So white, however, goes about his business, and white gets tempted into a mistake. The knight doesn't have any good square to go to except e5. The engine says white should play rook c3 and just keep the stasis. But instead, white played rook f4, and here comes the beginning of some moves. I guess white either overlooked. White was down to 10 seconds in the game, so it's possible that Pradip Blau simply overlooked this move. But it's so I don't know. It's got an X there. And here it says black should just go back to e8, but hey, we're going to keep the attacking chances. That's not really a mistake. Now white decides, okay, where are you going, black queen? Black queen comes in. White attacks the rook. Black's rook is happy to come in, and now white is actually under siege here. So Lal decided to capture black's rook, probably at time pressure, desperation. He ran down to 4 seconds before playing that move. And what he missed is this very nice finishing combination by. So it is.
That is pretty.
Move. Actually, queen e4 is also effective for black, but this becomes mate in 5 now, and you have to see the right order of moves. So it's tempting to play g5 check here, but the correct move is queen's h2 check, and white gave up because it's mate on f6.
Yeah, I would have never seen rook takes h3. I mean, queen e4 just seemed logical there. So to see this as quickly as to see queen, that's really good board vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Maybe next star.
Yep, it might be our next star. Yep, and he took advantage. I'm just going to show the one thing from his 8th round game very quickly. Just the position, the key position where black's dawdling costs the game. So pawns are even. White is just a little advantage because of black's e6 pawn, and white is a more active king. Black actually could have put a stop to this a couple moves ago, could have checked and evicted white's king from the center. But black had a different plan, which is just as good. Oppose white's bishop on c3. Okay, white played h4. And now all black has to do to equalize the game is follow through and play bishop f6. Now, I guess maybe black saw some ghost with white playing g5 check. So black played bishop f8. And now this is very nice by Oro. h5, and you have to bishop g7 takes f5 check is percolating here, and so if black captures pawns, then it turns out the position becomes open and white's king just infiltrates. So black gave up a pawn, and actually white should play bishop e5 here. But knight e5 did not lose the advantage, and Oro converted this game very nicely. So 2 very good wins on demand. Unfortunately, he got some tactical chances against Grebnev in round 9, but didn't play his key moves in the right order, and lost, of course, to a more accomplished world under 18 champion player. But it certainly was an interesting show.
Well, I think has a very bright future ahead of him. And,
that's right. Yeah,
we will soon see his next favorite star, and maybe he will make it to candidate tournaments in next 3-4 years.
That's
I don't
true.
think 3-4 probably. Anyway, thank you so much again. Thank you, Dan, for today's show, and we'll see you next week, same place, same time.
Okay.
Have a great weekend as well.
Thank you. Yep. Good seeing you, Dan. Enjoy Santa Fe. Yep. Okay.
Good seeing you all. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.